Shalom Aleichem, everyone. We're continuing here in Hachstek's learning of the Pele Yoetz, day number 141 in the chapter of Galus, of exile. We're speaking about the benefits and the detriments of living in the Galus or traveling in exile itself. It is known what Chazal say, Sha'amru Galus lahiniach mida Toiva liyisrael. Galus, this advent of exile, does not leave one single good trait to be found amongst Klal Yisrael, which sounds like Galus is a very bad thing. But the same Chazal tell us, Ya Galusa liyisrael. Galus is good for Klal Yisrael. So which one is it? Is it bad or is it good? Let me explain, says the Pele Yoetz, how to reconcile these two seemingly contradictory statements. Shegalus hanefesh lo toiv liyisrael. The spiritual galus is not good for Klal Yisrael. V'roi lemi sheish yecholis livroich mimokayim shemachbidim u'ulav al Yisrael. And if a person has the ability to run away from a place where the galus, the goyim that they are living amongst, are weighing down heavily on the Jewish people, with things that have to do with their spiritual existence. Kagoyin, for example, for example, there are certain places, says the Pele Yoetz, where they do not allow marriages to take place unless another man in that city will die. And the reason that they do that is because they want to force the men in that city not to be able to get married. They're going to have all of their yetzaharas and their lust swimming around inside of them, and they'll become promiscuous with other women that aren't their wives, because they can never get married because no man died in that city. So the nation that you are living amongst are trying to hurt your spiritual self and essence. Says the Pele Yoetz, get out of there. There are certain places where they take the Jews against their will and force them into the army to go out to battle and to war. And then when they do that, it's very hard for them to keep mitzvahs and be an erlich Torah dikayid when they're out there in the fields, they're out there by war. There's no kosher food, there's no Shabbos, there's no tefillin, there's nothing. So they do that in order to impose upon the Jews very difficult times. We find this in the Russians. They had what was called the Cantonese. They would take young Jewish children from a young age and they would throw them into the Goyish world and eventually put them into the army with the hopes of eradicating all spiritual essence from the Jewish people. So says the Pele Yoetz, v'kehena gezeres kashos, so too if you're in other places where they have terrible decrees like this, uminhagim roim, and bad customs that are going on, sheyesh b'ktsas malchus, that some of the kingdoms and the countries put over the Jewish people. A person has the ability to uproot their dwelling place, and they can run away from there, which they should. However, if you have the ability and you don't make the effort to get out of there and run for your life, litain esadin, in the future, which means when you will leave this world after 120 years, you're going to have to give an accounting for why it is that you did not leave the place that was so arduous and so weighing down on you from the Galus. Why didn't you make the effort to get out of there? It is more fitting that you should run away from such terrible places. Says the Pele Yoetz something, a Pella. That's why it's the Pele Yoetz. It's a wonder. It is more important that you run away from a country, from a city, from a town, where the Goyim are putting these terrible decrees upon the Jewish people that are hurting and damaging the ruchnius, the spirituality of the Jew. It's more important to run away from there than to run away from a place where there is pestilence and there are plagues that are killing people, we should not know such things. You understand? The spiritual killing that the nations can do to the Jewish people is worse than the physical danger that a person might be in if there's pestilence and plagues all around him. And if a person doesn't run away from this town because his money, he's entrenched in his money over there, he's got his properties, he has his business, he doesn't want to lose his money, so then you should know, you're going to lose your money anyway. Chazal tell us, mi goram letzadikim sheyodur eitzel b'shoim mamoinam lefikach monam avi. There's a din in the Torah called Ir Nidachas. You have a city that is filled with idol worship. The whole city gets destroyed. Everything gets destroyed over there. Man, woman, child, trees, everything, money, everything gets lost. And it says over there that the tzaddikim, they're also going to be punished. All their money is going to be burned up and taken away as well. Why is that? Because the reason they were living in a city of Rishoyim is because there was more financial opportunities over there, and they should not have been there, and therefore they're going to get punished. Says the Pele Yoetz, Shema Mino, we hear from this, you should run away from a city where there are evil people that are living. If you can't do anything about it, you can't give rebuke, you can't help to change people's minds, run for your life. Because lest you be caught up in the sins of that city, you will be burned up with the coals and the fires that are going to burn them up as well. Says the Pele Yoetz, you got to understand the sanctity of your neshama is so precious and so valuable and is so eternal. We have to do everything within our abilities to protect our spiritual self. And if you are in a town in the Galus that is damaging and hurting your neshama, your nefesh, get out of there with every ability that you have and save yourself. But those things in the world of Galus, of exile, that have to do with your body, your physical self, then Galus is a good thing for Klal Yisrael. For the neshama, for the ruchnias, Galus is a terrible thing. Run for your life. For the body, if Galus is affecting your body, that's a good thing, says the Pele Yoetz. But it's not good for a person to live in Italy or in Rome, Italian cities, Western culture, Christian cultures, and the like. Because of all the freedoms, I guess we'll call it the spiritual freedoms and the immoral freedoms that exist in those places. You could never give any rebuke to those people that are doing sins. And even the Jewish judges have no abilities to truly judge between one fellow and himself. Everything gets judged with compromising judges that are not going to do the trick. And a wise Talmud Chacham doesn't have the ability to give punishments for the things that people are doing wrong. And that's what it means in the pasuk. Yeshua and Klal Yisrael got fat. They got fat with all of the gashmi, the materialism, and the physicality. Vayivan, they kicked off Hashem. A person will do whatever looks good, even crooked in his own eyes. There's no one that can tell him what to do and what not to do. And therefore, says the Pele Yoetz, even though that physical galus might be a good thing, a little bit difficult to understand exactly how he's learning over here. One end he's saying it's a good thing, but stay away from the places where it's going to be, where your living is going to become compromised, and you won't be able to have an influence on anybody for the positive. And even a worse sickness. They're not makbid, they don't care about znus, about promiscuity. And they are so parts, they are so immodest and illicit in arayos, in illicit relations and the like. You live in a town like that, Va'goyos hoichos begilui uprisus, and the non-Jewish ladies, they walk around totally dressed immodestly and scantily clad, as they would say, which is walking around the streets in a very immodest fashion that men are going to see. V'yesh kubais shel zonos. There's even brothels for the zonos, for the harlots. U'mitay kach yisrael yoshvim beineim, and therefore the Jewish people that are living amongst them, v'yisarvu begoyim, get mixed in with the non-Jews. V'yilmadu maseim, and they'll end up learning from their ways. Terrible, terrible thing. So it sounds like the Pele Yoetz is saying like this: if you could use the physical suffering of being in Galus, that's something that is good for your body. But if you're living in places that are still going to keep wearing down on the Jew and wearing down on the ruchni, on the spirituality of the Jew, you must get out of there and run for your life. Those of us living in Los Angeles, I don't know how we're going to live with these words of the Pele Yoetz over here, because everything that he says is wrong, is going on over here on the streets of LA, and truthfully is going on all over the world right now. The person has to be very careful. They have to be very careful. They have to make sure that they have a good center of ruchnius in their life. They have anchors, rabbeim and rabbanim, and they have communities and kehilos and shuls and places they can go and learn, and they can daven in the proper way to keep their minds strong, to keep themselves focused in the right way. And wherever you could avoid being in an environment and a situation which is anti the world of Torah, which is anti the world of Ruchnias, anti the Kedusha of Klal Yisrael, a person must run for their life, because it's more important to run away from there than even from pestilence, from magefa, from plagues, from things that could destroy a person. Anything in the world of Ruchnis that can be destructive is worse than all of that. So Amir Hashem, as we're just coming off the Yom Tov of Hanukkah, where we recognize the valiancy and the chashivos of the Yiddish and neshama, and that's what Yavon was trying to take away, to extract our souls, to make us as if it doesn't mean anything to be a frum, ehrlich, ruchnis, yid. So we're going to make it our mission to avoid the pitfalls of Galus Be'ez Hashem, to be strong, committed and dedicated to the Rebbeinu Shalom, and be able to stay connected to Torah, to mitzvahs, to Arabanim, to yeshivas, to Torah, to learning, to davening with the minyanim in the right way, in the right place, in the right time. And then that's a chos, that will be a shield that Imyitz Hashem will protect us from the ills and the pitfalls of the Galus, which is really all around us. All the best.